Scott. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I've spent way too much time communicating with my grandchildren. This is what's happening to me in my little bunker over here. I also want to thank Rebecca. You are amazing. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for setting up the WhatsApp group. Thank you for the tremendous honor. As you all know, God willing, when you become mothers, you'll know this even more. When you give, you love the people that you give to, and you care about them. And this is the way that your teachers feel about all of you. And it's just been hard for myself and my colleagues not to be on beautiful Neve campus, not to teach you inspiring students that you guys are. And thank you, Rebecca, for making this happen. It means a lot to me. And I hope to share today's class will be useful for you, and it will not be the last time. It'll be the beginning of continued learning. Thank God, Hashem has created this medium called Zoom that allows people to stay in touch from all over the world. So let us begin at the very beginning. Today's topic, I want to talk about the festival that's coming up, the great festival of Shavuos. And at first glance, from far away, it seems to be very, very male-centric. That's about to change. I'm going to be showing you on the deepest level how this festival applies to men. But before I do that, I have to make a bracha. I apologize. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol niyeh b'varo. Just by the way, if you remember when I taught you in the Bay, I always came in with coffee. And if you remember, when I thank you, Lily, for remembering this. When I used to come in with coffee, I always used to announce my great discovery about the Neve dining room. Is that at the back of the dining room, you have like a coffee place. The coffee is Israeli coffee that does not taste particularly good, but next to it is always cocoa, is always chocolate. If you mix the two, and you know how to do it properly, you can get kind of this mocha thing over here. So since coronavirus, probably by far the most important thing that has happened to my life is that my wife has discovered, Debbie, can you hear me? Can you bring me in a bottle of that Shoko that they can see what I'm talking about? Okay, my wife's going to show you. When you come to Israel, you can buy Shoko that has no sugar in it, but it tastes like regular Shoko. What you do is you shake it up, you get a froth, you put it at the bottom of the coffee thing, and then you add the coffee. It goes up, and it tastes like a gourmet mocha. I can't begin to tell you. Starbucks will be jealous. I need to get that out of my system because, seriously, this is the exciting things that happen when you are under coronavirus quarantine. But anyhow, let us go back to what I was talking about beforehand. I want to describe to you what is going on in Israel in the last couple of years. There has been a new trend for okay, one second, Debbie, come say hello to everyone.
Hi everybody.
This is my wife. Okay. Okay, just do not forget this. Do not forget this. This is it. It's Shoko, no sugar. Okay, this is the amazing stuff that goes in here. I'm so pathetic, I really am.
This is the best pearls of wisdom. I love it. I'm in Canada, and I feel like I'm right in Israel. I'm a former alumni.
I'm looking at the names over here. I see Priya, Mazel Tov, Priya. Okay, this is an amazing thing. I'm seeing all my favorite students over here. Let me go back. There has been a trend in the last decade or so that on Shavuos night, women stay up and learn. Basically, what it means is as follows. If you would have stayed on the Neve campus, there would probably have been all-night learning provided by your favorite teachers, probably climaxing with Rebbitzin Heller, who's going to make your brain hurt. You know, there's going to be like nuclear waste oozing out of your ears. And then you go from the Neve. Let me get rid of my WhatsApp. That's the WhatsApp is clear. Let me get rid of all this stuff. And then at some point, you guys get out and you go to the Kotel and you see tens of thousands of people and you accept the Torah at the Kotel, and it is so beautiful and it is so powerful. And then you sort of schleppily move back and then you pass out and you imitate a beached whale for as many hours as possible. And that's basically your Shavuos. That's what's happening, which is very similar to what the guys have been doing. But let me tell you what my wife does on Shavuos. You just met my wife, Debbie. She's my partner in absolutely everything. And without her, I would not be here. I certainly would not be drinking this fabulous coffee over here. But let me tell you what Debbie Shavuos looks like. She's a few inches away from me, so if I exaggerate, I get into trouble. Basically, before Shavuos begins, the first thing she does, she makes a plan for all the meals. And then she starts working, because the first meal is going to be milchiks. And she knows that that milchiks meal has got to be Yom Tov milchiks meal. So she makes these amazing, these blintzes and the salmon dishes and all kinds of things. And then, finally, we get to Yom Tov. And there she is. We're having a beautiful Yom Tov meal. And the moment the meal is over, she does not stay up and learn because she has worked so hard for this to happen. Remember, she has a full-time job as well. And she basically collapses. When she wakes up, she's got to make lunch. Meanwhile, the men are getting up from bed and they are all crabby because that's what we're like. We haven't had a proper night's sleep. The Shavuos lunch meal is going to be fleischiks, but it's not too much fun because we're not exactly the most exciting kind of company. And then finally, that meal is over. Everyone goes back to sleep. And then remember in Israel, we keep one day, it's over with. So basically, my wife, Debbie, Shavuos is running a catering service and that's it. And a lot of sleep. And I want to ask you a question. Let's compare. Neve girl, who spends the whole night learning, intellectually stimulated. She accepts the Torah, not a Har Sinai bat, the Kotel. And she sees all the beauty and the excitement of the Torah learning. And then you have my wife, who is symbolic of, I would say, overwhelming 90% of women will tell you that's what their Shavuos is all about. And you're going to think to yourself, what is going on over here? What is it? This is like a male-centric Yom Tov. And the women are sort of like they're serving the men. What is going on over here? There's something that looks particularly wrong. I also want to ask another question, and that is, it cannot be by chance that cheesecake is the food that represents the Yom Tov. What is cheesecake all about? So the Mishnah Berurah, as you all know, the most important halachic commentator is the Chafetz Chaim in his Mishnah Berurah, and he brings down the custom to eat cheesecake and all other milchik foods over here. I see over here my Panamanian friends, whatever it is, they have, I think it's called knafe. Did I say it right? What's the Spanish Sephardic blinza? I think it's called knafe. Daniela is nodding her head. I got it right. Okay, thank you very much. The point is that everyone makes milchiks. Why milchiks? So the Mishnah Berurah brings different reasons, and he says the best reason why we have milchiks is very, very simple. That is because when the Jewish people accepted the Torah, that day they found out the laws of meat and milk, and they realized they cannot just serve a fleishik meal. Now keep in the back of your mind, whenever something huge happens to the Jewish people, the first thing we do is that we eat. So that's just the Jewish way. So when we accepted the Torah, it was no different. We're makabel the Torah, we accept the Torah at Mount Sinai. How long did that take? 1 or 2 hours? Some point in the morning, it was over. Then the Jews say next, we're hungry, let's celebrate. We just got the Torah. What did they eat? They could not eat meat because they couldn't slaughter the animals. And they couldn't get their pots and pans, milchiks and fleishik. So the women were smart and they said, okay, let's make a quick milchik meal. And that's what they did. And because of that quick milchik meal, that's why we eat milchiks on Shavuos. And now, at this point now, I have one more question and then I'm going to develop a huge idea. But my first question is, what is the real role of women in Torah, which in turn is the real way that they are celebrating the festival of Shavuos? My second question is, it cannot be by chance that milchiks and milchik foods is such a big deal. It's such a big deal on Shavuos. It cannot be just something simplistic. It has to be something deep at the nerve cord of the nature of what Shavuos is all about. My third and final question is I'm going to read to you what happened at Mount Sinai. And for those of you that do not know this verse, it is going to come as a shock. Okay, here I am. I'm reading to you from the Sefer Shemos, Perek Yotes. Perek Yotes means Parshas Yisro. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Hashem speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu. He's about to give the Torah. And he says, Kaiseimar lebeis Yaakov, v'sagid lebnei Yisrael. This is what you should say to the house of Jacob, and this is what you should speak out to the children of Israel. Says Rashi. Why are there two phrases? Beis Yaakov, bnei Yisrael. He says Beis Yaakov are the women, and bnei Yisrael are the men. And then he adds something else, which I would like every Jewish educator to listen carefully, because I don't know why you get this wrong. It says Taima. The word Taima means speak softly. Speak softly to the ladies. The Tagid means to speak harshly to the men. The Rashi says, when you teach Torah to the men, and they say something stupid, you tell them they're stupid. If a woman says something stupid, you say, I validate you, that was beautiful. But let me show you another way of saying it. In other words, you got to know that women are sensitive, and that's it. You want to be kind and sweet to them. I'm just throwing this in. This is not your problem. But today, in the schools where I send my kids to, sometimes you have girls' high schools where the teachers are incredibly tough with the girls. I don't know where they get this from. The Torah says that teaching Torah has to be pleasurable and has to be enjoyable and has to be soft. Just wanted to get that out there. Let me get back to one more point, my third question. The Torah says, Kisema lebeis Yaakov, v'sagid lebnei Yisrael. Hashem says, speak to the women and then talk to the men. It seems to be that Matan Torah is made out of two parts. It seems to be that there is a women's Matan Torah and there's a men's Matan Torah. One of the commentators in Rashi, called the Sifsei Chachamim, says, it is important to note that the women come before the men. Kaisema lebeis Yaakov, v'sagid lebnei Yisrael. It's at Mount Sinai. What happened over there? The women came first and the men came second. Now, I just want to share with you that my Rabbi, not Rabbi Moshe Shapiro, my other Rabbi, Rav Shlomo Wolbe, this time of the year, he used to always remind us, it's a mitzvah to try and picture what happened at Mount Sinai. Who says it's a mitzvah? The Ramban, Nachmanides. Every time you close your eyes and try and picture, how could it have been? You are fulfilling a positive Torah commandment according to Nachmanides. So let's picture it. The Jewish people came out of Egypt for 49 days. They worked on themselves, level after level after level. By the time they got to Mount Sinai, they achieved a level of spirituality similar to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. That's why it says, Vayichan Am Neged Ha'ar Ki Ish Echad B'Lev Echad. They were one nation with one heartbeat. That one nation was like Adam and Eve before the sin. They were on such a high level. And then they sat there waiting for the moment to happen when God would give the Torah. And Moshe Rabbeinu disappears into the clouds. And then there's like this thunder and there's lightning, and it's very, very frightening, and other references to songs from Queen. And there would be like, it was like there was fire coming out. This whole thing was so awesome, was so powerful, was so overwhelming. And the Jewish people received the Torah. They didn't just receive the Torah. They reached a level that was so high that they saw the clarity of every single question that will ever be asked from the beginning of time to the end of time. They saw the answers. For a few moments, they had that clarity where every question of why people suffer was answered. They reached a level of what's called seeing with clarity where the world begins in its roots. They saw everything. And they experienced a Garden of Eden experience, as you all know, that we have a custom that we put out flowers on Shavuos. Those flowers remind us of the flowers that were there on the mountain. Where do those flowers come from? From the Garden of Eden. That's what the Zohar brings down. The guests were all the angels. They came down and they said, this is a wedding between the Jewish people and God. How powerful is this? The land of Israel was to be the gift that God would give us. The Torah was going to be the way that we communicate. Mankind has a soul, but also has a body which is in the way. How do you get past that body? So Torah, mitzvos, that's how we communicate with Hashem. That's how we make the marriage work. Everything was happening. But what we notice today is that this extraordinary thing that happened was divided between the men on one side and the women on the other side. When we came out of Egypt, we came out as families. We came out, every person in their bias, in their Jewish home. On Seder night, you had to be inside your Jewish home. On Shavuos, that wasn't enough. On Shavuos, it wasn't enough to be in your Jewish home. On Shavuos, you had to be with your gender. It was a gender-specific occasion. The men on one side, the women on the other side. Moshe Rabbeinu on the top of the mountain. Maholech kan, what is going on over here? And why are we reacting with cheesecake? What is that all about? Time for a shluck. Hello, Heidi. Good to see you. Anyhow, I'm sorry. Every time I see a face, I'm full of joy. I just want to say thank you so much. I understand some of you prefer your privacy, but just seeing, hi Esty, just seeing faces just makes me happy because it's so miserable in my little cave over here, being here. Literally, I sit here 16 hours a day. But the bottom line is that let's go over the questions one more time. Why is it that the Torah was given gender separated? The women first, they get the Torah first, the men get the Torah second. Second question is, what is this whole thing about milchiks? The reaction to Har Sinai was to eat milchiks. Why is that such a big deal? And thirdly and finally is to understand on a deeper level the role of women in how they connect to Torah in general. And to do that, we've got to go back to the beginning of the beginning. And I apologize because I'm speaking to very advanced students. I know who you guys are, but just let's go back into kindergarten and learn once again what it means, the birds and the bees, what it means to be male and what it means to be female. So I'm going to ask you a question. I know you know the answer. Where is the first time that you see male and female in the Torah? What's the first time, the first reference to male and female in the Torah? If you want, you can just blurt it out, you can just chat it, but anyone that says Adam and Eve, that's not what I'm looking for. I want a Naveh answer. I want a deeper answer. So the real answer is that it goes back to the very beginning of time. It goes back to the first second of creation. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Says the Zohar, that first burst of creation was male and female. Now, in Kabbalah, male and female are not people. Male and female are basically concepts. Male and female is not what we call today male and female, but rather they are the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu divided creation. God is one, but creation is two. Everything he created is a duality, the masculine and the feminine. In Kabbalah language, Dukra v'Nukva. Dukra means Zachar, v'Nekeva, okay, male and female. What are these two powers? So we said one is called heaven and the other is called earth. So some of you are thinking, again, let me guess, men are heaven and women are earth. That doesn't sound right, Rabbi. No offense. Because in country music, it is glamorous to be called heaven. She looked like an angel from heaven. Yeah, okay, so you think, oh my gosh, okay? So anything heavenly, you don't say, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. She looks very like a piece of earth. That does not sound, no offense. But the point is that if I rephrased it and I said, what would you rather be at any given moment? Would you rather be a human or an angel? And if I say it this way, where do you find the action? Where do you find the excitement in this world? So God created the world that everything needs two parts. One is called the initial burst of inspiration. Everything starts as, so to speak, an explosion of creative ability. And that explosion of creative ability is by definition lacking. It cannot survive. It needs someone to take it and to control it and to make sure that it can survive. Let's use an example from nature. If you have an apple seed, so the apple seed contains inside of it like a nuclear bomb. A teeny little apple seed has got an infinity inside of it. It can have apples till the end of time, theoretically speaking. You take it from heaven and you put it inside the ground. You add water from the heaven into the ground, maybe fertilizer into the ground. Then Mother Earth takes it and nurtures it for a long, 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 long time. In the end, what you get is that Mother Earth is the one that turns that little seed into apples, into something that is forever and ever. And theoretically, if you get it right, the apple tree can last forever. In the creation of humanity, there's the father's contribution and the mother's contribution. The father's contribution, as you learned in your biology class, is a burst of energy, a burst of inspiration, so to speak. The female takes that and for 9 months will nurture it. And for 9 months will take that and build around it a world, a universe. The womb is called an olam, a universe. It is a microcosm of the whole universe. It even is surrounded with water. Everything about it, there's so many parallels. And that is exactly the male-female dimension. It's not just biology class. It's not just what we learn when we see nature. It's there on the deepest of the deepest levels. For example, what was the first Jewish home? Abraham and Sarah. What was the second? Rebecca and Isaac. The third, Yaakov, Rachel and Leah. How did those homes work? They worked exactly the same way. Everything begins with a burst of inspiration. What does that mean? So let's start off with Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu's burst of inspiration was called Chesed, the mindset of Chesed, or in Kabbalistic language, the Sephira of Chesed, from the higher worlds down into this world. Avram unleashes this power of Chesed. Avram Avinu says to Sarah Aminu, are you my partner? She says, oh yeah, our tent is going to be open in all 4 directions. Avram Avinu is going out and bringing in every single Bedouin, every single person out there, and bringing it into the house and teaching them about the power of God. He unleashes the first Kiruv home. What does Sarah do to Avram Avinu's burst of Chesed? She gives it a bias. She gives it a house. What does that mean on the deepest level? If I ask you, what was Sarah Imenu's most important thing that she ever did in her whole life? And the answer is that she kicked out Ishmael from the home. She told Avram Avinu, Ishmael stays here. We're not going to have Yitzhak Avinu, the perfection that we're looking for. When you build a house, you're doing 2 things. You're nurturing from within, and you're keeping the winds, the negative winds from outside. A bias nurtures inside and protects inside, but keeps the outside out. So you're building and you're protecting. Sarah Imenu says, if you want your chesed to survive, you need to make sure that Yishmael is out of here, because he's a bad influence to Yitzchak. I just want to say, my wife has got the biggest heart. all the way from Jerusalem to Memphis, Tennessee, if you know anything about her. Hi, SD, right? She's the best. But sometimes I say to her, Debbie, I want to invite this family. I want to bring this person home and this person for Shabbos. And she says, whoa, okay, not so fast. Here's the rule. Any girl out there that ever asked to come for Shabbat, for Shabbos, knows that whenever we have family, we only have 4 Neve girls, max. Always 4. Why? Because that's what my wife figured out, that we make sure that the kids come first. That's her opinion. She's Saramenu, I'm Avram. I would have all of you guys every Shabbos. But my wife says, okay, but it's got to work. You want to do chesed, it's got to be sustainable. Now, I'm not going to go through it because this is not a class where we're learning about the Avos and the Imohos. But Rivka did the same thing to Yitzchak. Yitzchak was Gevura. Yitzchak was this, so to speak, everything was strict. And Rebecca was the kindness over here. But Rebecca, her job was to make sure that Esau was kept in line. She's the one that saw through the danger because Yitzchak's personality fits with Esau. And Yishmael says, no, oh my gosh, Daniela, you just made my day. I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry to be distracted. Thank you so much. Okay, Blianara. Anyhow, but the point I want to make is that this is the way it is. You always says the woman, she is the bias, meaning she's making sure that what my husband's inspiration is going to work. I can't explain this to now, but Rachel and Leah, they were the one that took care of Lavan's influence on the Jewish home. So what that means is that the woman's bias is what makes sure the male's contribution actually has a continuation, can actually work. Now stay with me. Let's look, how beautiful is this? The Hebrew words for father and mother. So you all know, I am called Abba, my wife is called Ima. Abba ve'ima, everyone knows this. It's hopefully the first 2 words your child will say, Abba and Ima. The ba is very common in other languages, like you have Papa and Baba, all these things are male, and Ma is always female. What is interesting is that the Radak, Rav David Kimchi says, look at those words. The word Abba, one of the words Abba literally means a burst of inspiration. You have a look in Tanakh, many times the word V'loi Ava, Ava means deep desire, uncontrollable desire. And the word Abba on its own implies an explosion of willpower that doesn't seem to have any borders to it. The word Ima comes from one of the first words you learned in Hebrew for the word Im. Im means if. Let me translate if. If means hold your horses, not so fast. Let's give this something that can be sustained. Let's make sure this is successful. Don't just go out there and just like whatever. No. Let's figure this out. It has to be sustained. I do want to say something, ladies, because I'm giving you over foundation ideas in male and female. In real life, it's never that way. I have to throw this in because we live in 2020. I used to always say that male and female is what's called a spectrum. So not every male is a classic male. You have, I don't know how to say this. We live in the David Beckham era, right? You have girly men. You have men that get waxings, okay, whatever it is. And men that want to be nurses. I'm just sounding cliched. I'm really, God forbid, but I'm saying, and then you've got, the A-list men, the football players. There's all different types of men. And you've got women the same way. There are women that just they're born to wear army boots. It's just the way it is. So you've got this thing. By the way, this is not today's class at all. But today, when we talk about gender fluidity, so Judaism on principle has no problem with that. Because we always said that there was a spectrum within the male gender and there's a spectrum within the female gender. In today's class, I'm going to the roots of male and female. Heaven and earth. Heaven and earth is where it all begins. And there's many other examples. Shabbos and weekday, there's all kinds of males and females. There's a reason on Friday night when Shabbat becomes a Kala, becomes a bride. All these things need to be explained. But what's called the pristine male and female is Abba, Ima, the burst of energy and the ability for that energy to survive down here in this world. The first is called Shemayim, heaven. It comes from up, down. And the second is that the earth itself makes sure that that has survival, that it can be contained. Just one more thing I want to throw out, because I happen to know, I'm looking at some of the names, a lot of you are involved in Kiruv. A lot of you need to know what's going on. Rebecca, take notes. You're going to need this. At some point, you're going to ask the following question. Why is it that your Judaism goes based on your mother, but your tribe, or whether you're a Kohen or a Levi or Yisrael, goes with your mother, goes with your father? Why does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. Why is it split that way? So I'm a Yisrael because my father was a Yisrael. I'm a Jew because my mother was Jewish. So why is it that way? Based on what we said, we have a very, very, very deep understanding. Because when it comes to anything to do with what's called in Hebrew kavod, kavod means what elevates you, what connects you to heaven. So that is your tribal affiliation. That is what was called, whether you're a priest, all these different things. So that has to go through the Father. The Father is the Shemayim coming down to Aretz. Your Jewishness is nothing to do with that at all. Your Jewishness is your essential essence. Your essential essence that defines you here down on earth. Your Jewishness is what's called your bias, that thing that holds you. Every morning I say 3 blessings that define who I am. I thank Hashem for being Jewish. I thank Hashem for being free, and I thank Hashem for my gender. Those are what's called my essential essence. I don't thank Hashem for being a Kohen or a Levi or a Yisrael, because that is not something that defines me. That's what's called a kavod. That's like, when you get an aliyah, when you get honored. So that is something that is extrinsic. So that goes through the Father, that goes to heaven. But earth, which is the action, which is the foundation, on that goes through the female by definition. So now I want to, let me just add one more thing before I get back to Shulas. I want to get to one more thing over here. I have a book. I actually have it over here. Well, okay. And I'm not trying to sell this book because it's not in the stores. I'm supposed to now, in coronavirus, be writing the new version of this book. I've been working on this for 20 years, the new version. It's been 99% finished for almost 10 years now. One day the new version is going to come. You see, there's a little girl walking to the kotel over there. Lianara, she now has 7 kids. That's how old this book is. That's my daughter Chava. But what I want to share with you, oh my gosh, Daniela, you are the best. God bless you. So you just make me. Oh no, Esty, this is too much. Okay, this is too much. I'm gonna. My ego is gonna. I'm gonna have to take some more coffee. Oh my gosh. In that book, I bring down at great length why a woman says every morning Sha'asani Kirtsono, and there I basically give over what I taught you just now. What does it mean, Sha'asani Kirtsono? Thank you, Monica. Gracias. Thank you. What does it mean, Sha'asani? You made me Kirtsono, like your will. So there's 2 answers I give. One of them is not for today, that God's will is to be the giver, to be the nurturer, which is a feminine dimension. That's one answer. But today's answer, which is the answer that I think is, it's so important to understand this. Hashem's will is that the action of this world, the action was called the cutting edge, should be down here in this world. When I say Kaddish, at the moment now I'm saying Kaddish for a community in Germany, I'm saying Kaddish for people in England, I'm saying Kaddish for people in America. I offered anyone that wants me to say Kaddish for them. I have a minion downstairs. It is a legal, social, whatchamacallit, with the mask, the whole thing, but we got a minion downstairs in our building. We have every building over here on the street has its own minyan. If someone needs me to say Kaddish for them, happy to do so. Or I'll get one of my friends to do it. But what I wanted to share with you, in Kaddish, we say Ba'alma, a world, Di Bara Kiruse, which means you made according to your ratzon, your will. And Rav Volvick saying your will is that Mother Earth is where the action happens. That is what's called the ratzon, that it should be the feminine dimension. Don't let anyone say to you that the centerpiece of the Jewish experience is the study hall or the synagogue. That is a Christian concept. I don't want to be, there's no question that they could be the battery or they could be the engine. But the actual car itself, the machine itself, the centerpiece of this world is always, always the Jewish home. Like I mentioned earlier, when the Jewish people came out of Egypt, the creation of us as a nation, the creation of us as a people is all about a bias, is the feminine dimension. Shasani, you made me, Kirtsono. That's the way you want the world to look. Is that the bias is the centerpiece of the experience. The bias is, I could say it this way, in the creation of a human child, the woman gives 9 months to the man's 10 seconds. So this is like, that's the idea of this ratzon, is that the physical earth should be the center of everything. So now we can go back and understand fundamentals in how HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs this world. This world is a corridor. Every day we remind ourselves in our tefillos, every day when we deal with the struggles of life, we remind ourselves that all the problems that we go through in this world, all the challenges, all the abilities to grow, it's for 120 years. 120 years is nothing compared to the infinity that is waiting for us on the other end. Olam Hazeh, this world, maximum 120 years. Olam Haba is forever and ever and ever and ever. How long is forever and ever? How long is infinity? It's not a billion years. It's not even a gazillion years. It's not even a gazillion gabillion years. And I don't even know what that number is. It means whatever number you can think of, you're just at the beginning of what it means forever. One day I'll give you another class to explain why that's not going to be boring, why it's going to be constantly getting better. But that needs to explain a little bit what it means the world to come. That's not today's class. Today we're talking about this world, the journey to get there. In the world to come, the relationship that we have with God is to recreate what happened at Mount Sinai. In the world to come, we go back into the Garden of Eden. In the world to come, the essential me and the essential you is our soul, which bathes in the pleasure of being close to God. If you want to know, if you want to taste the world to come, think of the most beautiful moment you can ever have in a relationship. Let's say, again, the cliche, the moment that your future husband proposes to you, and time stands still, and nothing else exists except for you and another person. Your cell phone will be off at that moment. Everything is focused on that 1 second, and that 1 second can expand forever because it's so much pleasure. The joy of being with someone, the joy of taking something so special and feeling that connection on the deepest possible level. That's what happens between us, the Jewish people, and the nations that are connected to us, and God in the world to come. We imitated it as close as possible at Mount Sinai. So when the Talmud asked the question, Nashim b'mai zachyan, this is Tractate Brachot, Tractate Brachot, page 17a. How do women get to the world to come? They don't study Torah. The women don't sit there in the Beit Midrash learning about oxes, goring cows. What's that got to do with anything that we have to talk about another day and explain the genius of the world of Talmud. The genius of the world of Talmud, I'm not explaining at all at this moment. But it is genius. It's infinite genius what happens in the Beis HaMedrash. Women don't go in there. Women are in their homes, so what's going on? They're taking care of their wife and kids, or they're working, or whatever it is, or they're doing chesed, or they're davening. They're very, very busy. So what's going on over here? So the Talmud says they wait for their husband and their children when they come home from the learning places and they greet them. Now that is obviously a metaphor, because my wife does not greet me. My wife says basically, okay, here's dinner, okay, enjoy. This doesn't happen in the cliched way that it's described in the Talmud. What it means is that the woman is the bias of Torah. She is the earth to the heaven. She is the facilitator of infinity to give it something grounded that it can last. So this is what those of you that watch the great event of the Daf Yomi, so every person's thanking the women. It wasn't just to be nice, I promise you, because we all know what goes on. Every single one of you, even if you're not married, you're part of a community. Your being part of a community facilitates that the centerpiece is the Torah that's learned, and through that, everything is built, the schools and the mikveh and the synagogue, and the way that communities interrelate and all the chesed organizations. And the centerpiece is always Mount Sinai, is always that yeshiva, or whatever it may be, that symbolizes Har Sinai. And the women are always part of that. They're always facilitating, creating, making sure that it happens. Now, let's ask ourselves another question. Why is it that at Har Sinai, the women came before the men? Because it's always like that. It's always like that. When Betzalel built the Beis HaMikdash, he first had to build the house, and then he filled it in. You got to get the bias, the infrastructure right, and then you can bring in the inspiration. Which means, for example, I'll give you another example, Yisachar and Zvulun, the great partnership between the man that supports Torah and the man that studies. The pasuk says, "Smach Zvulun b'tzeisecha v'Yisachar b'olecha." Zvulun is happy when he goes out to work, and Yisachar is happy in his tents of learning. But Zvulun comes first. He comes first because he facilitates that the whole Torah system should be alive. And in the world to come, there is no Yisachar and Zvulun. And in the world to come, there's no male and female. It's all one. Everything becomes one there. Everything becomes a unity. Because this is the world of tools. There, in the world of the gold, everything is one big, beautiful, infinite harmony. In the world to come, everything that your husband or the men of your community ever studied, you know it just as well as them. It's part of you. The connection to God is part of you. It all becomes one. So all of this goes back to this awesome words that God said to the Jewish people. Kaisaymar, speak softly. Lebeis Yaakov. This is the women. They are called base. Base is bias. Yaakov is that part of the Jewish people that builds down here, that's involved in the physical world. Yaakov is the original name of our forefather, because that symbolizes that part that is the foundation block of the Jewish people. And then V'kisagid, harshly, L'bnei Yisrael. Yisrael means that part that's connected to bringing things down from heaven. That part that fights with angels. As you know, the name Yisrael came when Yaakov fought with an angel. And the angel says, you can fight with the heavens, just like a yeshiva bacha fights to understand the Torah. So that's the Yisrael coming down. So first you have the bias in Har Sinai, and then and only then you fill it in with the Torah. Ay, the heilige cheesecake. Ay, the holy, holy, holy cheesecake. Stop and think. I'm sorry, Daniela. The holy knafe, the holy blintzes, the holy, whatever it is, lasagna, whatever it may be. How awesome were the women at Har Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu brings down the Torah. The Torah is not something that's airy-fairy in the air. The Torah is not something that sits there in heaven. The Torah is brought into the Jewish home. What was the very, very first Lemaisa, practical, down-to-earth expression of the Torah? And the answer was the question that the women asked. how are we going to celebrate? That question, how are we going to celebrate with food, is not just some cute thing. The women figure, let's go out and make a spread for the, to celebrate. No, the food is symbolizing the Shabbos table, the Yom Tov table, the Jewish home, the practical earthing into the physical wall of a Torah from heaven, making sure it survives. And the very first practical ramification was, how are we going to serve fleishiks? We don't have kosher pots. We don't have time to shecht an animal. We don't have time to clean out all the innards and to make it ready for the day. Let's make milchiks. Milchiks was the first real live expression that the women brought down and anchored it into the physical world, the way that would be their legacy until the end of time. So let me summarize, because any moment now, I have this fear that Rabbi Edelstein is going to walk in right into my house over here. He's going to take out this watch and say to me, Rabbi Nissel, there's another class coming up. I have no idea what you're going to get in 7 o'clock in Israel time, but I'm just assuming that there's going to be another teacher. So let me summarize. Somebody asks, isn't Olam Haba also temporary until Mashiach comes and we have Tchias HaMesim? So this is a complicated question, but just again, everything that this class is about is talking about Olam Hazeh. Mashiach is the final chapter of Olam Hazeh. Torah, when we talk about Olam Haba and the relationship with God and making time stand still and enjoying, the nearest we have to that is that Shabbos taste of Olam Haba, when time stands still and we can enjoy a taste of spiritual infinity. At Har Sinai, which we are going to go and accept together. Ki ish echad b'lev echad. We're going to split into two only for a moment. As we receive, we're going to split into two, because the women are going to accept a Torah that facilitates the Torah of men. Now, I'm not knocking what Naveh does, because it's called chinuch, it's called education. Education means that today in 2020, it does not exist. A woman is not intelligent in learning. Today, every woman needs to be empowered. The intellect has to be there. But in the end, the reason why Naveh does what it does is to empower you to build that Jewish home. When you're 120 years old and you look back at your life and you're surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and if you ask me, Rabbi Nissel, what's that one thing I want to say on my 120th birthday? I will say to you the following: did I get my home right? Did I build my bias the way it's supposed to be? Because that's it. You will one day, I don't want to be depressing, but one day people will be named after you. But they won't be your co-workers' kids. It won't be wherever you did out there. It'll be your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. That bias is the legacy that you build. And the Kesoima Lebeis Yaakov that began at Har Sinai reverberates all the way to the coming of Mashiach. So I urge you all, each one of you, celebrate Shavuos your way, but deep down, we celebrate our genders, that together as a team, we build this bias, which is a microcosm of the future Beis HaMikdash. Just wanted to say, and see, Baruch Hashem, thank God, we have Rebecca Klayman, so we have a WhatsApp group. Any questions in my class, send them to the WhatsApp group. Any one of you that knows people, that knows me, please add them to the WhatsApp group so I can continue to send them my classes. This is my lifeline. It's my new thing. I just discovered WhatsApp with Corona. So I want to be able to reach out to all of you. So please, please, please add people to that list from the different years. I want to keep in touch with all of you. You'll have my bad jokes and my good Torah classes. I want to wish you all from the bottom of my heart. Number one, keep the kasher. Number two, have the most beautiful, enjoyable Yom Tov. But number three, be proud of what you have and your role, and to celebrate together with the rest of the Jewish people this holy Yom Tov. May it be that this Yom Tov should not be a regular Yom Tov. It should be a Yom Tov where together we go and celebrate it at the Beis HaMikdash. Not like now with the kotel with little compartments, but all together, the whole Jewish people, all the way from Mexico City, and all the way from Los Angeles, and all the way from London, wherever you may be, together with Har Sinai. And ki ish echad b'leiv echad, one nation, one people. We will recreate the Garden of Eden down in this world with our beautiful Jewish homes, with the sounds of Torah, and with that everlasting, loving relationship that we have with Hashem. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you all of us for joining. And you should have a good Yom Tov, and stay healthy and stay safe.